the doors be open. Psst. Keep it maybe. Statements by members. Declaration Senate Deputy, the Honourable Member for Edmonton St. Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today is April 1st, and it's no joke that thousands of temporary foreign workers are packing up and getting ready to leave Canada. In Alberta alone, an estimated 8,000 workers will be affected. Now, this is a loss not only to the Alberta employers who cannot find Canadian workers, it is a bigger loss to the hardworking, dedicated employees who come to Canada with a dream of making a better life for themselves. Now, the government owns this problem. For years, it was told that there was nothing temporary about employee shortages in specific industries. But rather than allowing these valuable employees to permanently immigrate, it relied on 4-year temporary foreign work permits, thus creating a revolving door of TFWs. Some serious but isolated abuses of the program have ruined it for the thousands of workers who love Canada and for the many employers who would love to keep them. Mr. Speaker, it's time to take the temporary and the foreign out of TFW. We owe hard workers prepared to take unskilled jobs that cannot otherwise be filled permanent residency and then citizenship. After 4 years in Canada, they deserve more than a deportation order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
This Friday, beginning at sundown, Jews around the world will gather with family and friends to usher in the Shabbat and the holiday of Passover. The story of Passover, as told during the Seder, reminds all of us of the importance of freedom. The Seder ceremony is filled with the symbols of confinement and liberty, pain and joy, and has served as a means of teaching each new generation the story of the liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt. Most importantly, it instructs us that it is the responsibility of each generation to teach their children that freedom is something for which we must always cherish. The lessons of Passover echo in every corner of the earth. They demonstrate to us that while we must be thankful for the freedom we have, we must also remember all those in the world who yearn to know its many gifts. This year, let us rededicate ourselves to extending the blessings of freedom, democracy, human rights, and liberty to all who seek it. I want to offer all celebrating Passover my heartfelt wish for a joyous Chag filled with warmth and family of friends. Chag Pesach Kasher V'Sameach.
The Honourable Member for Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, Northerners are deeply concerned with the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development position that the 3 territories are the same and that their environmental laws should be uniform. In committee, the Minister went on and on about how the government's plan is to have the same laws governing the land and water of all 3 territories. Any Northerner will tell you that you cannot treat the territories the same. This paternalistic approach by the Conservatives is completely wrong. Each territory is unique, with different demographics, different geography, different cultures, and different relationships with Aboriginal governments. We have fought for years to create our identities. The Minister and his Conservative colleagues instead tell Northerners, your uniqueness, issues, concerns, and political relationships are of no importance to us. Mr. Speaker, Northerners are fighting back. The NWT Tlicho First Nation has won an injunction against the creation of the Environmental Super Board. Bravo. And the Yukon First Nations are already preparing their court case to stop S6. Conservative members from the North, listen up. The opposition will be heard at the ballot box.
The Honourable Member for Whitby, Oshawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in the House today to recognize the 35th year of business for a thriving fashion destination in Whitby. Starting as an idea between friends, Judy Vipond and Connie Herron, Connie's Brooklyn Village shop was born and has maintained years of success. Today, the shop provides international and Canadian fashions and merchandise where both locals and out-of-towners continue to visit season after season. Mr. Speaker, Connie's Brooklyn Village shop is one of the many examples of successful businesses that support, promote, and enhance the communities. In fact, Canada has over 1 million small and medium-sized businesses that continue to serve their communities while providing local jobs. Mr. Speaker, I would just like to send my congratulations to Connie and Judy on achieving this wonderful milestone.
Great job.
The honourable member for Etobicoke North.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate Tartan Day in Canada, which is celebrated on April 6th because it's the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Arbroath in 1320, the Scottish Declaration of Independence. Tartan Day recognizes and celebrates the contributions of Scots and their descendants to the fabric of Canadian society. They played an important role in mapping the West and North, in running a railway across the country, and creating a system of national parks and establishing banks and universities. Tartan Day gives Canadians a chance to enjoy Gaelic singing, Highland dancing, piping, and other Scottish-themed events. And if you enjoy Tartan Day celebrations, be sure to attend the Highland Games this summer in your area. I'm especially looking forward to attending the Fergus Highland Games, which have been going strong since 1946, and which I have attended since the age of 4. Kiat Mila Falcha, or 100,000 welcomes.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat.
Mr. Speaker, I stand today to speak about local World War II veterans from the community of Bow Island in my constituency. In December, I had the great honour of presenting these veterans with certificates of recognition and commemorative pins noting their service for King and Country. Veterans Jim Walwork, Vic Selvig, Ivy Williams, Les Chambers, Peggy Hogan, Kathleen Foss, and Art Anderson were the recipients of the certificates and pins. And it's a small way of remembering their brave actions from all those decades ago. We thank these countless and other veterans who went to fight tyranny in Europe, Africa, and Asia to ensure our freedom. You fought for freedom, liberty, and the democratic values that we believe in so strongly in our hearts and our minds. All Canadians thank you for your service, and we know that without your commitment to our freedom, we would not live in the greatest country on earth. We're so proud of you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Gaspésie, Île-de-la-Madeleine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is the start of the Desjardins Cup Regional Hockey Championships in the Magdalen Islands. I'll be delighted to attend this 39th championship, presided over this year by the young Magdalen Islander Alexis Loiseau, captain of the Rimouski Oceanic in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. This major tournament brings together 225 players and 65 coaches from the Gaspé Peninsula and the Magdalen Islands. Over the next 4 days, 14 Atom, Pee-wee, Bantam, and Midget teams will vie for the precious cup. No less than 34 games are scheduled for the competition ending Sunday. I'd like to congratulate all of the players, coaches, fans, and volunteers who make the 2015 Desjardins Cup possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For St. Catharines.
Mr. Speaker, today at the Canadian Museum of History, a special exhibit is opening. It's entitled Terry Fox, Running to the Heart of Canada. For 143 days in 1980, Canadians watched, marveled, idolized, mourned, and finally celebrated a nation's hero. Terry Fox's legacy began during that Marathon of Hope. Over the past 35 years, each and every year, in every community across our country, including my riding and home, St. Catharines, supporters of the Terry Fox legacy continue the Marathon of Hope and together have raised over $700 million for cancer research. As Terry himself stated on August 2nd, day 113 of his marathon, there can be no reason for me to stop, no matter what pain I suffer. It is nothing compared to the pain of those who have cancer and of those who endure treatment, often with little hope of recovery. Mr. Speaker, Terry's legacy will be on display at our Canadian Museum of History from today, April the 1st, until September 20th of this year. I would encourage all Canadians to come and walk through the exhibit of one of our nation's true heroes. Thank you.
The honourable member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, on April 2nd, people from across Canada will be celebrating first ever Pope John Paul II Day. Pope John Paul II's work transcended so many boundaries. He was a courageous champion for acceptance, religious freedom, and forgiveness. He promoted the values of peace and tolerance, along with a strong stand against human rights violations. These are the values that resonate deeply in our country and with Canadians. And this was always the motivation behind my private member's bill C-266. I want to thank both speakers of the Senate and the House and the Canada-Poland Parliamentary Friendship Group for co-hosting a special reception today to celebrate Pope John Paul II Day, along with colleagues, international representatives, and faith leaders. To all Canadians, on April 2nd, I invite you to join me in reflecting on Pope John Paul II and his never-ending message. Do not be afraid. Happy John Paul II Day, and may peace be with you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tonight, this Parliament will have an opportunity to vote on my bill, an act to defend the North Coast. This bill is born from a decade-long threat that has faced the northwest of British Columbia in the form of Enbridge Northern Gateways pipeline. Yet within this crisis, we have found hope. In this conflict, we have found an opportunity. First Nations, non-First Nations, people standing shoulder to shoulder, community to community, against this threat and the threat posed from a Conservative government unwilling, unable to listen to the people of my province. Yet this bill is not just to oppose dangerous resource development, it is also a bill that will finally put truth into community consultations and put an end to the rip and ship policies from this government. For the first time in our history, this Parliament will have an opportunity to vote to protect BC's coast from the danger of supertankers plying its waters. And tonight, Mr. Speaker, we have an opportunity to see my colleagues from British Columbia, my Conservative colleagues from BC, as to who they actually stand and represent, who it is that they work for, this Prime Minister and his oil lobby, or the people from British Columbia who sent them here.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, it's painfully obvious to all Canadians that the high-tax and high-debt Liberals want higher taxes and bigger government. We know the Liberal leader hasn't met a tax he didn't like. The member from Kingshank stated that, quote, Liberals believe Canadians will not be bothered by being taxed more. On top of that, the member of Toronto Centre stated, amen to raising taxes. On this side of the House, we've been clear that our low tax plan for families and Canadians know what to expect from our Conservative government. Lower taxes. When it comes to families, our government will always do what's best and give money back to Canadian families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Notre-Dame de Grace-la-Chine. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the promotion of women entrepreneurs and leaders. Every day I realize that more than ever before, this is an essential goal. Several fields like business are slow to open their doors to women. There are still serious and substantial issues women face in business, and these are major obstacles to their success. And yet we have at our disposal impressive numbers of talented, visionary women who are such a promising source of hope for the development and enrichment of our country. Today, I'd like to thank transcontinental media on the West Island of Montreal, including the Lachine Messenger and the Chronicle, who did an excellent job of marking Women's Day with a special section followed by a women's networking activity featuring Ruth Vachon, CEO of the Quebec Business Women's Network. Participants were able to meet with kindred spirits and discuss our respective successes, but also the difficulties and challenges we share.
Years ago, and made up of women who work hard to create and develop their own businesses. I encourage you all to continue to actively pursue your dreams and live your passions to the fullest. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for St. John.
Mr. Speaker, thanks to the leadership of our Prime Minister and the Minister of Veterans Affairs, our government has announced new initiatives that are further proof of our commitment to treat veterans and their families with care, compassion, and respect. Today, we have officially expanded the eligibility criteria for the permanent impairment allowance so that more veterans are eligible for financial support each month. Even more, effective today, the earnings loss benefit is now calculated in the same way for reserve force veterans as is for regular force veterans. This is about respect for reservists. These measures and others in the Support for Veterans and Their Families Act are some of the ways that our Conservative government is ensuring ill and injured veterans and their families have benefits that will span their entire lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, April the 2nd marks the second World Autism Awareness Day in Canada. Autism is one of the most common developmental disabilities, affecting 1 in 100. Yet many of us are unaware of the extraordinary abilities of many with autism and the challenges they face. Many on the autism spectrum have above average intellectual and artistic capabilities, while others have difficulties with motor skills, intellectual disability, sleep interruption, and verbal and math skills. Autism varies widely. The quality of care and support families receive depends on the province in which you live. Families struggle to meet the daily challenges of caring for a loved one. So federal leadership is needed to coordinate approaches to care, to share best practices and research for health, education, income support and caregiving. I know, having worked with many individuals and patients who have autism, that they're all extraordinary persons who contribute to their communities. In recognition of World Autism Awareness Day, many landmarks will be lit up in blue as part of the campaign. So be aware and work to remove the stigma of autism.
The honourable member for Lotbinière Chute de la Chaudière. Mr. Speaker, apparently the opposition never does groceries and never buys clothes for their family. It's absolutely clear that all Canadian families need our tax breaks and our support. That's why our plan helps 100% of families with children regardless of their choice of childcare. In contrast, the NDP want to impose a plan that will take support away from 90% of families to help pay for an increasingly bureaucratic and wasteful scheme that would only benefit a fraction of the families. As for the Liberals, it's clear they still don't trust you to spend your money wisely. Our Conservative government is confident that Canadian families know how to invest their money when it comes to looking after their own kids. That's why, Mr. Speaker, Canadians agree with our plan, which is to put more money into the pockets of 100% of families with kids.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the unelectable, unaccountable, under-investigation Senate is at it again. There's news today that at least 40 current and former senators have been asked by the Auditor General to account for questionable expenses. Sources have told the CBC that at least one Liberal senator has been unwilling to cooperate. And let's not forget about the growing investigation into Conservative Senator Pamela Wallin. The RCMP is now gathering information from the Canada Border Services Agency and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security about her travels. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have become tired of the endless Liberal and Conservative scandals in the Senate. They don't believe that an unelected body from the 19th century should be part of Canadian democracy anymore. Now, more than ever, we need a comprehensive approach with the provinces to abolish Canada's Senate. And we're going to get that later this year when we elect Canada's first NDP government.
The honourable member for Edmonton Millwoods Beaumont.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is World Autism Awareness Day, and now 17 years since my son Jaden was diagnosed. It's also almost 16 years since his incredible sister Janae was born. When she was just 13, in an interview with Steve Bacon, Janae was asked a really tough question. Do you ever sometimes wish that your brother was quote-unquote normal, like every other kid? Janae answered without hesitation, well, honestly, since Jaden was diagnosed with autism before I was born, I don't exactly know what a normal brother is like, so Jaden kinda is my normal. She continued, if he didn't have autism anymore, he wouldn't be the same as Jaden is now. Mr. Speaker, autism brings with it big challenges, varying significantly across the spectrum. But as we help him deal with his challenges, we'd never want to lose the Jaden we have now. And the more that a normal life for Canadians includes people with autism, the more we can work together through the hard stuff and allow our brothers, sisters, neighbours and friends with autism to thrive. Well said.
Or questions orales. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, today is April 1st, and it's no joke, Canada still doesn't have a budget. As per usual, the Minister of Finance is silent on this day. will the Prime Minister stop these games and finally tell Canadians when the budget will be brought down? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We have announced measures on the Economic Action Plan, Mr. Speaker, recently. We have announced measures to put money in the pockets of Canadian families to pay less tax, benefits for child care, for the fitness tax credit, among other things, the universal tax credit, etc. These measures are already before the House, and I would encourage the NDP and all parties to support them. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
250,000 more unemployed today than when the crisis hit in 2008. The greatest inequality in Canadian history. A whole generation that for the first time will earn less than their parents and grandparents. That's their track record, Mr. Speaker. The Finance Minister claims he's holding off on the budget because of, quote, economic uncertainty. But the Bank of Canada moved ahead with stimulus just this January. The provinces, for their part, are moving ahead. They're presenting their budgets one after the other. Why is the Prime Minister so singularly incapable of doing his job? When will he present Canada's budget?
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear what the record is on this side. 1.2 million net new jobs since the end of the recession, the lowest tax rates in the G7, the lowest debt levels in the G7 but by far, and far ahead of other countries, Mr. Speaker, a balanced budget. That's why this country has good economic growth prospects for the long term. There are many measures before the House right now, including measures that put money into the pockets of families for childcare and other expenses that will do so immediately this year. And I call on the NDP and others to drop their ideological belief in high taxes and support things for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yesterday, the Governor of the Bank of Canada had a one-word summary for that track record. Atrocious, Mr. Speaker. Mais le Premier Ministre...
But the Prime Minister is responsible for this mess. He's the one who staked everything on oil, despite warnings from the NDP. We told them to be more prudent, to diversify, and to protect the manufacturing sector, where some 400,000 good-paying jobs, not part-time, unstable jobs that he's talking about, good jobs were lost there. Now, what was bound to happen did happen. The Conservatives are panicking and they're incapable of presenting a budget. What's the pretext? This has never happened in a generation before, that a sitting government hasn't brought in a budget at the start of a new fiscal period. When will we see the budget? Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Canada is an expert and they expect an increase in economic growth this year. Mr. Speaker, we have done a great deal, Mr. Speaker, for the manufacturing sector. But with the NDP opposition, well, we've seen them vote everything. They've voted against lower taxes for the manufacturing sector. They voted against extending the accelerated capital cost measures. The NDP voted against the Innovation Fund for the automobile sector. They voted against the national strategy.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we know one thing, that the day the Conservatives will finally accept to bring down a budget, they're going to be taking $7.5 million from taxpayers in order to conduct partisan advertising. That's the reality. That's the way they do their public spending, Mr. Speaker. What we won't know the day of the budget is the cost of their war in Iraq, because that is something they're going to hide. If he's so proud of his war in Iraq, why is the Prime Minister hiding the real costs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government has already announced the figures The costs?
Talk about the budget. I can assure the honourable member the government will not only bring forward a budget, but will make sure Canadians are well aware of the contents of that budget and how those measures impact them. We'll make sure they're aware of the doubling of the children's fitness tax credit, of the increase of the child care expense deduction, of the new family tax cut, and of the enhancement of the universal child care benefit. I know that the NDP would like to take all those things away and raise people's taxes, but we'll make sure they're aware of them and they benefit from them.
Leader of the Opposition.
Where the Prime Minister would take billions of dollars from the middle class to give it to the richest 15%, damn right we're going to reverse that, Mr. Speaker. The Defence Minister is misleading Canadians about why our troops are there. The Chief of Defence Staff is contradicting the Minister's claim that Canada has to attack Syria because other countries don't have smart bombs. General Lawson has just confirmed that several of the countries bombing in Iraq and Syria actually do have the same weapons, and they've used them. Why are Conservatives again misleading Canadians about this war?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The NDP would take money away from 100% of Canadian families and give it to bureaucrats, lobbyists, and advocates, Mr. Speaker. And that's not what this government supports. Canadians will not let them do it. In terms of the second question, Mr. Speaker, the Chief of Defence Staff has already addressed this particular issue, but let me be very clear about the government's position. We will assist our partners around the world in making sure that the so-called Islamic State does not have a safe haven in either Iraq or Syria from which it can launch terrorist attacks against this country. We are committed to making sure that risk and that threat to Canadians is degraded.
The honourable member for Papineau.
Mr. Speaker, the middle class needs a plan for jobs and growth. As the economy struggles, the government hasn't delivered. Unemployment is stubbornly high, and 20,000 young people lost full-time jobs just last month. So why is the Prime Minister cutting $9 million from the youth employment strategy this year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government has an enviable employment record because we are pursuing a low-tax plan for jobs and growth. What they want to do on that side is raise taxes on Canadian families. Somehow they think that would help the middle class. It would somehow help the middle class to take away the children's fitness tax credit, to take away income splitting from Canadian families and pensioners, to take away the enhancement of the universal child care benefit, Mr. Speaker. These are good measures for middle-class families. It's why the Canadian middle class, unlike the middle class in most countries, has had good growth over the past few years, and we continue to be committed to move.
The Prime Minister cut $9 million from programs that help young people find work. But he's spending $7.5 million on a new round of partisan government advertising. He's got the wrong priorities. When will the Prime Minister understand that taxpayer funds should be used to help Canadians, not the Conservative Party?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Is the Liberal Party actually asking me about taxpayer dollars, Mr. Speaker? We're still trying to find 40 million of those dollars. The right priority, Mr. Speaker, is to put money into the pockets of Canadians. The wrong priority is the Liberal Party's position against the family tax cut, its position against tax breaks for seniors, its position against the universal child care benefit, its position against the Canada Job Grant, against the Canada Apprenticeship Loan, against apprenticeship grants, against help for sectors. Those are the wrong priorities.
Honourable member for Papineau.
Control things, but he doesn't get to write the Liberal platform. L'économie canadienne a besoin de...
Members need to come to order. The honourable member for Papineau has the floor.
The Canadian economy needs growth, jobs, and assistance for our young people. But the government's priority, the Conservative government's priority, is to cut $9 million to the youth employment strategy in order to buy $7.5 million worth of partisan advertising. When will the Prime Minister finally understand that taxpayer funds should be used to help Canadians, not the Conservative Party? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, it's odd to see the Liberal Party asking a question about advertising when we know what happened with those $40 million.
Platform, I would just say that somebody has to write it. Down there, they don't get to run away from their record. And their record against benefits for families in the middle class is crystal clear, and Canadians are going to learn about it.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. It's kind of hard to follow that, Mr. Speaker. New revelations have shown that no fewer than 40 senators are now under investigation by the Auditor General. The senators become an open bar where the Friends, Liberal and Conservative Friends, are in a feeding frenzy at taxpayers' expense. Conservative Senator Tamla Wallen is accused of fraud for personal travel. Duffy accused of abuse of confidence and corruption, and Senator Harb is accused of fraud. Canadians are fed up with being the butt of these jokes. When will we see the Senate abolished, Mr. Speaker? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, of course, the Senate invited the Auditor General in to audit all the expenses of the senators, and of course we hope that all senators are cooperating with them, Mr. Speaker. Now, you mentioned, I think you said 40 senators. I know that over there are some 67 NDP members of Parliament who have been found guilty of misusing House of Commons resources, Mr. Speaker. Now, I know that member over there, he actually owes the Canadian taxpayer $122,000, Mr. Speaker, for illegal offices in parts of the country where they have no members.
Order. Even for a Wednesday, this is getting quite loud. I'll ask members to come to order. I'm having great difficulty hearing the questions and the answers. The Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, we're not talking about a Conservative kangaroo court. We're talking about hand-picked Conservative senators facing real court. Now, this is an important issue because the Auditor General has identified 40 more senators with dodgy expenses. However, the Prime Minister's lead hand in the Senate has said it's going to be up to those 40 to decide whether or not they should reimburse the money. But with Duffy, Brazeau, and Wallen facing breach of trust and fraud, that doesn't cut it. So will the Prime Minister promise to turn the audit over to the RCMP so we can determine if any other of these senators should be up on charges?
That's it. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General was actually invited in by the Senate, and of course we eagerly await the report that he will be presenting, Mr. Speaker. Now, at the same time, I hope that he will assist us, because as we know, Mr. Speaker, the actual leader of the opposition himself owes $400,000 to the taxpayer of Canada for illegal offices, for illegal mailings, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman beside him owes $122,000, and 66 other members of that caucus owe the remaining $2.4 million, Mr. Speaker. So hopefully they'll get on top of that and repay the taxpayers.
What day is this? Oh, yes, April Fool's. Now, most of us face it once a year, but for others, it's every time they get up to explain the inexplicable with their defense of the corruption in the Senate. Now, let's move from this culture of corruption to the culture of secrecy. Yesterday, the Treasury Board President tried to blow off the Information Commissioner's report by claiming he's released a record number of documents, so the Commissioner doesn't buy it. This is what she said about him. The volume of pages disclosed is not sign of a transparent government, particularly this government. So when will the Minister stop with the phony statistics and explain the culture of secrecy that has developed under his watch?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
I'm dealing with facts, he's dealing with rhetoric. The facts of the matter are that there's been an increase of disposal of access to information requests in the affirmative by 36% over the term of our government, Mr. Speaker. That's our record, 6 million pages, Mr. Speaker. He may dismiss that, but we are the most open and transparent government in the history of this country, and we're darn proud of it.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-Lille. Well, what the Minister hasn't said is that the responses to access to information are of poor quality and very late. The Information Commissioner was very clear, and I quote, "Although the Act was intended to shed light on government decisions, it has become a shield against transparency and has encouraged a culture of delay." But in 2006, the Conservatives had promised Canadians more transparency and an overhaul of the Act. Isn't the Minister ashamed of going back on these promises and of encouraging a culture of secrecy? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the record is clear. In 2013-2014, our government processed some 5.9 million requests. That is a 9% increase over last year. There was a 36% increase over the past 2 years. That record is very clear, Mr. Speaker. We are proud of having a government that has dealt with access to information and made it a priority. Honourable Member for Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, today thousands of foreign temporary workers will have to abandon their jobs and leave the country because their work visas are expiring. No one knows how many of these workers will go home. No one knows how many of them have been granted a stay, nor for what reason. No one has measured the consequences of these departures for businesses. Will the Minister finally take charge of this file and deal with the many serious problems caused by his government? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the Foreign Temporary Workers Program is exactly what it says, temporary. Employers of foreign temporary workers have known since 2011 that there is a 4-year time frame. It was announced then. The real question is, what is the position of the NDP? Today, they're asking us to keep the door wide open for a big number of foreign temporary workers. However, a few weeks back, they said that we hadn't put these reforms in place early enough. The NDP's record on this file and on its immigration policies in general is very worrisome, Mr. Speaker.
Today, thousands of people who came to this country looking for a better life are being kicked out, all because that government made a mess of the temporary foreign worker program. Many were on the verge of gaining permanent residency. Many were cheated out of their savings by unscrupulous consultants, and some will go underground, desperate to stay, but denied any pathway to citizenship by this government. Meanwhile, employers are losing employees. What are the Conservatives going to do to fix the mess they have made?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, the purpose of the temporary foreign worker program is to find employees where a Canadian cannot be found to fill that job. Right. Mr. Speaker, the member speaking today said this on April 24, 2014. The bottom line is there are people living in Canada who are being laid off or having their hours cut to facilitate the use of foreign workers. Mr. Speaker, today, they're asking something completely different. The incoherence on the part of the opposition, and that member, the member from Newport North Delta, on this file, and in fact on Canada's immigration policies more broadly, is startling.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata Basque. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are incapable of bringing down a budget and even to measure the budgetary impact of the promises they've made. We've learned that the enhancements promised under the universal child care benefit by the Conservatives are more beneficial for families who don't have children. I'll repeat that. The improvements to this benefit for childcare are more beneficial to people who don't have children. We have a real plan in the NDP for children, for childcare, $15 a day. Why, Mr. Speaker, doesn't the minister draw some inspiration from us and use our plan to really help families? The Honourable Minister of State.
It's not at all what the PBO report said. In fact, it said that all families would benefit from our plan. And, Mr. Speaker, that's what we've been saying. All families with children will benefit from our expanded UCCB. Here's the insult that the opposition are giving to families. They're saying unless you use a licensed daycare space, you are not actually providing childcare for your child. Whether it's at home, a parent at home, whether it's a parent using a private daycare, a family member, a neighbor, there are a host of options that families use. We respect that. We will not tell families how to care for their children, and we reject the opposition.
We had a question for the finance minister today. I have a new idea. Maybe we should put a little sign out the front of Parliament, lost. One finance minister, reward the ability to explain his circumstance to the Canadian public. But while he refuses to show up to work, thousands and thousands of Canadians are losing their jobs.
Just want to caution the honourable member. He's trying to. I know. I'm just cautioning him to not do indirectly what he's not allowed to do directly. So I think he knows what I'm talking about. The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Look, under this finance minister's watch, the Canadian economy is actually shrinking. 15 months of anemic job growth, and this minister's only response is a new $7.5 million ad campaign for a budget that doesn't actually exist. I guess that's what the going rate is, to actually spin out a program to spend $2 billion on the wealthiest 15% of Canadian families. What's their solution to the thousands and thousands of Canadians that are lost their jobs? Where's their budget?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Well, our solution is to put dollars directly in the pockets of moms and dads so that they can meet the expenses that come with being a parent. But yesterday, the leader of the NDP made despicable and offensive comments about parents who don't necessarily use traditional institutional paid daycare. He said that those parents have no childcare expenses, and therefore they should not get any money at all. Mr. Speaker, this will come as news to the stay-at-home parents, to those who use a neighbor or a family member, and to the millions of others out there who make other decisions on how to raise their children. He should stand and apologize to them.
The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Their so-called child care plan, nothing for single parents. Their so-called child care plan diverts 15% to the wealthiest people.
Order. The government will have a chance to respond to the question when the members finish putting it, but not before then. Members need to come to order, or we're going to have to make up the time somewhere else. The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley has the floor.
Not yet, Mr. Speaker. The truth seems to have hit some kind of nerve over there, Mr. Speaker. Here is the truth. 400,000 lost manufacturing jobs. Their response, a $7.5 million ad campaign. 250,000 Canadians more out of work than before the recession, and their response, a $2 billion income splitting scheme to help the wealthiest 15% of Canadians. This minister needs to check his facts before he does even further damage to our economy. When's he going to show up to work? When are we finally going to see a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, there's still time for the NDP to apologize to parents like Trevor. I met Trevor yesterday, over the weekend. He's from Osgood. He has 5 kids. All of them are too old to go to institutional daycare. But he struggles every month to save for their future university education. He says that our new universal child care benefit for older children will go directly into their registered education savings plans so that they can have the dream of a university education. Maybe Trevor's plan is not good enough for the NDP leader, but it's good enough for us, and that's why we're supporting Trevor and millions of other Canadian parents.
The Honourable Member for Beauséjour. Mr. Speaker, job creation and the economy are in free fall. Over the past year, 191,000 fewer jobs were created than just 3 years ago. To make matters worse, the economy shrank during 3 of the past 6 months. Instead of taking action, the Conservatives are celebrating the disappearance of the Minister of Finance. With job creation on the decline and an economy that's in a major downturn, why is the Conservative solution simply to do nothing? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, that's the type of question that we expect from a party whose leader thinks that the budget will simply balance itself. Canadians understand that budgets don't balance themselves. That's why they support the increases, for example, to the child care benefit, to $2,000 for children under 6, money for children under 17. Mr. Speaker, this is money for Canadians. The Liberals are opposed to this, Mr. Speaker. They'll be withdrawing this money. They'll be increasing taxes on Canadian families. We will never allow them to do that.
For Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, a drop in job creation of 191,000 jobs, and that's because there's no economic growth. You cannot lift the middle class and all those working so hard just to get there without greater growth. You can't get balanced budgets without greater growth. But this government's growth record is actually the worst of any in 80 years. The Bank of Canada now calls it atrocious, and it's getting worse. All projections are downward. Why is this government somehow content being atrocious? Where's the plan to fend off another recession?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, we have a low-tax plan, and it is working. Our approach to job creation is tax cuts, trade, and training. So far, we have over 1 million net new jobs to show for this plan. 85% of them are full-time. 2/3 are in high-wage sectors. The Liberals' only plan is to raise taxes and run deficits. Canadians understand the budget does not balance itself, even if the Liberal leader does not.
The Honourable Member for Wascana.
Here's the government's record. The economy is shrinking. Unemployment is up. TD Bank says it's getting worse. CIBC says job quality is at the lowest ebb in 25 years. BNN is reporting the most pessimistic business outlook since the last recession. And the Bank of Canada says only substantial monetary stimulus is keeping Canada from falling back into recession. When will this government stop undermining Governor Polo's? Where's the fiscal plan to recover the 191,000 jobs lost by this government in the last 2 years?
I'll just ask honourable members on the far end of the chamber to come to order while the minister answers the question. It's getting very noisy again. The Honourable Minister for Employment.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party has a one-point plan on jobs: raise taxes on families. We won't let them do that. We have a plan for tax cuts, training, and trade, the 3 T's of job creation. It's working. Over 1 million net new jobs. 85% of them are full-time, and 2/3 are in high-wage sectors. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue creating jobs. Our plan is working, and we're going to move forward.
Perhaps the member for Vancouver Centre didn't hear what I just said, but I'll ask members to come to order while ministers answer the question. It's becoming quite tiresome. The
honourable member for Alfred Belin. The Conservatives have done everything to limit debate on C-51, and in the end, all they did was press on and pass only their own amendments. And that's not nearly enough to fix the problems with C-51, particularly when it comes to oversight. And according to the Plans and Priorities report from the Security Intelligence Review Committee, CIRC is currently unable to review most of CSIS's activities. This is very serious, Mr. Speaker. Why won't the Conservatives understand that the only thing to do is withdraw C-51? Well, what is serious and pathetic, Mr. Speaker, is to see the NDP day after day, week after week, month after month, opposing every single measure that our government is putting forward to fight the #1 threat to our national security, and that's terrorism. So, Mr. Speaker, we are working with our allies, with the Americans, the French, the British, and as you know, we have an oversight committee that is the envy of the world. The Supreme Court recognizes its ability to find the right balance between rights and privacy, and the director himself notes that they have the necessary resources. We will continue to support them.
With all this chaff, one thing is really clear. This minister just can't admit he was wrong about C-51. Despite over 90% of witnesses calling for significant changes, yesterday in the Public Safety Committee, the Conservatives refused over 100 reasonable amendments. On top of that, the Security Intelligence Review Committee has again been clear in its report on plans and priorities. CIRC says it can only review, quote, a small number of CSIS activities in any given year. Mr. Speaker, so much for strong oversight. CIRC understands the limits of its powers. Why doesn't the minister?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the president of the Muslim Facing Tomorrow is getting that we need legislation that is important to combat radicalization, that we need better tools to track jihadists who travels overseas, Mr. Speaker. But we also have a robust oversight in this country, Mr. Speaker. The Supreme Court has said that our review body, Mr. Speaker, is a model of Canadian legal system, striking a better balance between the protection of sensitive information and the procedural rights of individuals, Mr. Speaker. We have a great model, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for reviewing the bill and getting it to third vote. Thank you.
The member for Scotland.
Well, more hot air from this minister. If only he cared as much about other public safety issues. The Canadian Border Services Agency desperately needs a new lab to test potentially dangerous items that are coming into Canada. The Conservatives have been warned since 2006 that the 40-year-old lab isn't up to modern standards. But instead of taking action, the minister has failed to improve facilities while cutting the CBSA budget. Is this how the minister plans to keep Canadians safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
It's clear that our government is committed to ensuring the protection of our borders, and we are proud of the work done by the Canadian Border Services Agency. And we have increased the number by 26% the number of Border Services agents, Mr. Speaker, and we have a program to arm those agents. But when it comes to this, despite the NDP, we have not only doubled, we have tripled the budget for real estate for CBSA, and we will ensure that CBSA has the necessary resources to ensure the safety of our borders. Honourable Member for Alfred-Penat. Now, we're talking here about real threats to Canada, explosives, radioactive material, or smuggled illegal weapons. And yet the government has been warned since 2006 that the cramped, outdated laboratory is seriously compromising the ability of researchers to develop new tools to fight threats at the border. And this is seriously endangering the health and safety of Canadians. How can the Conservatives justify this nickel and diming on the back of our safety? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I am very thankful to the Conservative members who, since 2006, have allowed us to triple the budget for the CBSA when it comes to their installations. They do incredible work. They have added 6 people to the list of people being sought, Mr. Speaker. As you know, we have increased by 26% the number of agents at CBSA. So, Mr. Speaker, when will the NDP support the measures that we're putting in place to ensure that our borders are safe?
The Honourable Member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, for over a century, Algoma Central Railway has played a significant part in the Northern Ontario transportation network, providing passenger train service to numerous people in this area. The ACR runs almost 500 kilometres between Sault Ste. Marie and Hearst. In particular, it has served the canoeists, snowmobilers, cottagers and tourists who wish to travel within this beautiful region. Can the Minister of Transport please update this House on the latest action our government is taking on this important file?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for that question. I want to point out to the House as well, too, the great work that our colleague, the member from Sault Ste. Marie, has been doing on this file. That is consistent. I also want to thank the Algoma Central Railway Passenger Service Stakeholder Working Group for their extensive study on this issue as well. And I am very pleased to inform the House that our government will be providing funding over the next 3 years to maintain the operation of the passenger rail service from Sault Ste. Marie to Hearst, Ontario.
The honourable member for Berthier-Maskinongé. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives are missing in action when it comes to protecting the health of Canadians. 22 people died in 2008 after eating listeriosis-tainted meat. But the Conservatives still haven't filled one third of the inspector posts at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency in Northern Alberta, who are in charge of overseeing meat processing plants in Northern Alberta. Mr. Speaker, why are the Conservatives putting Canadians' lives at risk with these irresponsible cuts? Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who's a food safety expert from the University of Guelph, said about these allegations from the union. He said Canadian Food Inspection Agency method is the right way to approach inspections. And Keith Werner, who's also a director of Food Safety and Quality Assurance Program, to these union allegations, he said suggestion that meat sold in Canada is unsafe is scaremongering. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the Conference Board of Canada rates our food safety system #1 against 17 OECD countries, including the U.S. The union's portrayal of this issue is inaccurate and it's irresponsible. Food safety is #1 to CFIA.
Honourable member for Welland.
Speaker, one of the key tasks of any government is to keep Canadians safe, and yet this government has cut funding. The Priorities and Planning book actually tells you that, and has left us with a two-tier system. We had it once before, now it's back. It seems to be that meat that goes into the U.S. is inspected one way, meat that comes to Canadian tables is inspected a different way. In fact, what we see in Alberta is 100% for American meat product going to the south, 60% for Canadian product. So Canadians need to know that the food is safe. So why is this minister created a two-tier food inspection system for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me just again repeat. The Conference Board of Canada rates our food safety system in Canada #1 against 17 OECD countries, including the United States, of which the union alleges is incorrect. In fact, the suggestion that meat sold in Canada is unsafe is scaremongering, said a director of food safety and quality assurance at the University of Guelph. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the member knows full well, as does the union, the differences in procedures for international products are trade-related, not safety-related.
The member for Scarborough Southwest.
Remembrance Day is a chance to honour the sacrifices of all those who've served our great country. But not everyone can attend services, though. My bill, C-597, would give all Canadians the opportunity to attend Remembrance Day ceremonies, and the bill was supported by all parties. But now, Conservatives are using procedural tricks to try and kill this bill. They say they need another month just to study a bill with one clause. Mr. Speaker, will Conservatives abandon their delay tactic, respect our veterans, and stop blocking this bill?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, the suggestion just made by that member is absolute nonsense. We absolutely respect what veterans have to say about a number of things, including this bill. And as he well knows, this is a committee decision, and committees are masters of their own plans. While I'm on my feet, though, as the granddaughter of 3 World War II veterans, please allow me to thank all veterans for their service in a number of areas. We are very proud Canadians of all that they've done.
The honourable member for Laurier Ste. Marie. Mr. Speaker, after a unanimous motion from the National Assembly of Quebec calling for the liberation of Raif Badawi, Saudi Arabia has written to Quebec to complain about the fact that they're defending human rights, saying that that's interference. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Badawi has been sentenced to 10 years in prison and 1,000 lashes for a pro-democracy blog. When it comes to intolerance, well, this takes the case. What is the Prime Minister waiting for to ensure that Mr. Badawi is freed and that he is reunited with his family here in Canada? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
That the punishment of Mr. Badawi is a violation of human dignity, and we continue to call for clemency in his particular case. Our government has made representations to Saudi Arabia's ambassador here, and our ambassador in Saudi Arabia has met with senior Saudi officials, and we've also personally registered our concern with the government of Saudi Arabia.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Brampton South.
Canada's economy shrank again. It's now shrunk in 3 of the last 6 months, ripping billions out of the Canadian economy and thousands of jobs lost. While there are too many young adults without even the prospect of a job, the Finance Minister has been in hiding and the budget is undelivered. Will the Finance Minister back away from implementing his already broken campaign promise that gives a $2 billion tax break to the rich and does absolutely nothing for most Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, no one said it better than the following quote. I'll vote for the Conservative family tax cut that will allow for income splitting. Who said that? The Liberal member who just asked the question.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Brampton South.
Who are they kidding? This income splitting plan is not the plan that any of them campaigned on. Where does that promise stand? And they didn't campaign on raising the pension age to 67. At the doors, I'm hearing from students who can't find work and parents taking on debt to help pay student bills. New documents show the Conservatives are cutting youth employment strategy funding by more than $9 million, the equivalent of 3,000 summer jobs. Why are the Conservatives making it even harder for young Canadians to find work?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that member said that she would vote in favor of the Conservative family tax cut, which includes income splitting. Now she says our income splitting does not go far enough. That's interesting because his Liberal leader wants to take it away altogether for families and for seniors. As for the OAS, she was on this side when that change was implemented, and she voted in favor of it, Mr. Speaker. I think there's some confusion over there. Her Liberal leader thinks that the budget will balance itself. Canadians know better, and that's why they will always rely on us to deliver solid economic leadership.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Yesterday, Grand Chief Steve Courtois of Treaty 8 First Nations wrote to the Prime Minister. The letter speaks for itself. I quote, "The behavior and mannerisms displayed by your minister at the March 20th meeting in Calgary can only be described as rude, demeaning, blaming, and condescending. We cannot and will not work with someone who exhibits such blatant disregard for First Nations people. As such, we demand the immediate removal of the minister," end of quotes. Will the Prime Minister take responsibility for his minister's actions?
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, on many occasions in this House last week or the week before that I did a tour of the prairies and met with several First Nations and stakeholders to discuss a wide range of issues. And as I again said, while I don't disclose specifics of closed-door meetings, the discussions were productive, and our government will continue to work with First Nations to address these issues and work on our shared priorities.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the meetings were anything but productive when you hear from the First Nations leaders who met with this minister. Let's go back to the words of Grand Chief Steve Courtois. Quote, "The Minister of Aboriginal Affairs' responses and attitude strongly reflects the very same attitude that resulted in Indian residential schools."
Shameful.
End of quote. These, Mr. Speaker, are very strong words. Words that must be acknowledged by the Prime Minister. So let me repeat the question. Will the Prime Minister take responsibility for the shameful actions that we've seen from this minister?
The Honourable Minister for Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it is strange to see this member make this kind of accusations when at every step of the measures we have taken and are taking to improve and reduce the gaps in between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians, this party, the NDP, vote against each and every measure. I'm talking about property, matrimonial property right. I'm talking about water standards on reserve and a host of other measures which they all oppose.
Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
government has introduced the Respect for Communities Act, which gives local community residents as well as community leaders and police a say when drug injection houses want to open. This is needed and reasonable consideration that should be given, yet this bill continues to be opposed by Liberal MPs and senators. All the while, the Liberal leader is calling for more drug injection houses to open across the country. I'd like the Minister of Health to please update this House on where this important bill is at.
Great question. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Conservative government has a strong record of keeping our streets and communities safe from dangerous and addictive drugs, and we are going to continue to support treatment and recovery programs that actually work to get addicts off drugs and help them recover drug-free lives. The Liberal leader's pledge to blindly open drug injection houses in neighbourhoods is a disturbing and a risky proposal. And as Health Minister, Mr. Speaker, I'll make sure that communities are consulted before any of these open up.
The Honourable Member for York West.
Mr. Speaker, today is April 1st, but with mounting job losses and deepening financial woes across the country, Canadians aren't laughing. This government has mismanaged the economy, and now Canadians are paying the price for Conservative incompetence. Tens of thousands of retail sector jobs have either vanished or are evaporating, such as Future Shop, Target, Sony, Zellers, Jacob. And I direct these to the Minister in case he missed all of that. So I have to say, when are the Conservatives going to admit that their fiscal plan is more like an April Fool's joke than an economic strategy?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, the only joke is when the Liberal leader says that budgets balance themselves. But Canadians who have to balance their family budget are not laughing at the Liberal plan for higher taxes. The Liberals would raise taxes on middle-class families by cancelling income splitting for both parents and for seniors. They voted against the universal child care benefit, which will put $2,000 per preschooler in the pockets of 100% of families with small kids. Mr. Speaker, we're delivering benefits directly to families. The Liberals would take it away. That will kill jobs and hurt our economy. We won't let them do any of that.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this just in, Canadian citizen and journalist Mohamed Fahmy has just received a letter from this government rejecting his request for a passport. The government is requesting a definitive signal from the court that a passport is needed, even though that's already been done. It requests proof that his previous passport is lost, even though that's been reported by the prosecutor in Egypt. Conservatives were incapable of getting Mr. Fahmy home here to Canada. Will the government at least provide him with a passport, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of State and Consular Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we have a travel document prepared for Mr. Fahmy when he is able to travel. Canada continues to ask for full and immediate release of Mr. Fahmy, and consular services are being provided to ensure Mr. Fahmy's well-being.
Honourable Member for Winnipeg, South Central.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian families know that our Conservative government is the only one that trusts mums and dads to make the best decisions for their families. That's why we introduced the family tax cuts, which will save the average Canadian family nearly $1,200. Yesterday, the PBO looked at this package and released a report on its benefits. Could the Minister of State for Social Development please tell us what the PBO report showed about our plan and the opposition's stance on supporting families? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of State for Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, my colleague, the member from Winnipeg South Centre, took a look at the report, and she's right. The report shows what we've been saying all along, and that is that every family in Canada with children will benefit from our universal child care benefit. What they also have seen, Mr. Speaker, is the insult that the opposition have given to families who are not using licensed daycare. They still are incurring child care costs, Mr. Speaker, and the opposition have completely insulted Canadian families by not acknowledging that, by not recognizing it. The value that these families are providing to their children, Mr. Speaker, is huge for our country. The opposition needs to apologize for this.
Honourable Member for Laval-Les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, the City of Laval is calling for a moratorium on the installation of new community mailboxes. Local citizens are outraged at the lack of public consultation, and the Mayor of Laval has publicly denounced the one-way communication he has with Canada Post. Over 200 cities are now criticizing the attitude of Canada Post. Will the government respect the request from Laval, Or will it continue to force through the installation of community mailboxes? The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities at its 2014 annual conference in Niagara Falls was very clear with respect to this issue on community mailboxes. They overwhelmingly rejected a resolution on a vote of 311 to 185 votes. They rejected the notion that we not continue with respect to conversion to community mailboxes. I encourage the honourable member to speak to Canada Post on the particular issues that his town may be having with respect to the siting of the post office boxes. That's exactly what Canada Post should be doing.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Bar-Richelieu, Nicolas Bécancourt. Mr. Speaker, in the budget tabled by the Government of Quebec last week, there's a section on transfers, which speaks of the negative effect of Ottawa's unilateral decision-making on Quebec's finances. In a letter that you received, the Bloc Québécois has proposed measures that would give the government the room to maneuver necessary for the federal government to change its decision. Will the Minister of Finance admit, first of all, that his unilateral decisions are having a negative effect on Quebec's budget? And second, will he reimburse that money in the next budget he's preparing one day to table? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, it's with pleasure today that I remind my colleague that never in the history of Quebec or Canada have federal transfers been as high as they are today. $19.4 billion transferred from the Government of Canada to the Government of Quebec, which means more than $9.3 billion more in equalization payments while respecting provincial jurisdiction and working for the future. We have dropped GST by 2% and we've allowed the provinces to recuperate that funding. We continue to work with them, but never Quebec has been supported more than by this government and this Prime Minister.
Concludes question period for today. I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of Rolly, Fred, Darrell, and Judith Fox, father and siblings of Terry Fox. The exhibition Running to the Heart of Canada is opening tomorrow at the Canadian Museum of History. This exhibition, organized in partnership with the Terry Fox Centre, is marking the 35th anniversary of Terry Fox's heroic Marathon of Hope, a 143-day, 5,300-kilometre journey from St. John's, Newfoundland to Thunder Bay, Ontario. Did I see the honourable member for Westmount Marie rising on a point of order? I did.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Je crois, Monsieur le...
I believe, Mr. Speaker, that if you seek it, you will find there's unanimous consent for the following motion: that the House denounce the reprehensible treatment of Raif Badawi and call on the government of Saudi Arabia to cease his punishment and release him from prison immediately.
Speaker, I think that if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following motion: that the House denounce the reprehensible treatment of Raif Badawi and call on the government of Saudi Arabia to cease his punishment and release him from prison immediately.
Does the honourable member have the unanimous consent to the House to propose this motion? Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. Is it the pledge of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed. Agreed, and so ordered. Tabling of documents, dépôt de documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 36.8, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response